Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India issues official notification on holding the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. Legal reasons given for the decision: revokes all visas except long-term Indian visas already issued to Hindu Pakistani nationals. Leaders cutting across party lines condemns the Pahalgam terror attack, assure government of full support to take any action against terror camps. Indian Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi to visit Srinagar, J&K to review the security situation. Top commanders to brief him on the counter-terrorist measures. IAF conduct drills in central India with Rafale and Sukhoi fighter jets. Global leaders stand in solidarity with India. Prime Minister Modi receives phone calls conveying support over Pahalgam terror attack. President Draupadi Murmu visits Vatican to attend the state funeral of His Holiness Pope Francis to be held on Saturday. US President Trump calls on Russian President Putin to halt attacks on Ukraine after deadly Kyiv attack. Zelensky cuts short his South Africa visit to deal with the aftermath of the strikes. And on to the details now. India on Thursday officially informed Pakistan about its decision to keep Indus Water Treaty in abeyance with immediate effect. A day after India announced a series of measures against Pakistan in the wake of Pahalgam terror attack, a senior official of the Ministry of Jal Shakti wrote to her Pakistan counterpart, conveying that the Indian government has decided that the Indus Water Treaty 1960 will be held in abeyance with immediate effect. Jal Shakti Ministry Secretary Debashri Mukherjee wrote to her Pakistan counterpart Syed Ali Murtaza on Thursday, conveying that Islamabad had also breached the treaty. The letter said India has sent notices to Pakistan government seeking modification of the Indus Water Treaty 1960. Under Article 12 of the treaty, the letter said that the obligation to honor a treaty in good faith is fundamental to a treaty. Signed in 1960, the treaty allocates the eastern rivers, Satluj, Beas and Ravi to India and the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab to Pakistan. Well, in a series of sweeping measures following the Pahalgam terror attack, the Indian government has announced a range of diplomatic, security and cross-border policy actions. These decisions come in continuation of the Cabinet Committee on Securities Directives. Here's a breakdown of the latest developments.
India has suspended all visa services for Pakistani nationals with immediate effect. All valid Indian visas issued to Pakistani citizens now stand revoked, effective from April 27, 2025. Medical visas already issued will remain valid only until April 29th. Pakistani nationals in India have been asked to leave before their revised visa expiry dates. All SAARC visa exemptions for Pakistani citizens have been revoked. India has also decided to keep the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance until Pakistan permanently ceases its support for cross-border terrorism. Indian nationals are strongly advised to avoid travel to Pakistan. Those currently in Pakistan have been urged to return to India at the earliest. The integrated check post at Atari has been shut down. Military advisors at the Pakistan High Commission have been declared persona non grata. Additionally, staff at the Indian High Commission in Islamabad will be cut from 55 to 30. India's border security force will scale down the ceremonial retreats at Atari, Hussainiwala and Sarki in Punjab as part of the broader diplomatic response.
And the Ministry of External Affairs on Thursday clarified that long-term visas already issued to Hindu-Pakistani nationals will remain valid. Early on Wednesday, the MEA had announced that all existing valid visas issued by India to Pakistani nationals stand revoked with effect from 27th April 2025, adding that medical visas issued to Pakistani nationals will be valid only till 29th of April 2025. And India's Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi will be visiting the Pahalgam terror attack site in Jammu and Kashmir on Friday to take stock of the security situation following the heinous attack that claimed 26 lives and left over 20 injured. General Dwivedi will assess the ground-level conditions and conduct a high-level security review meeting with local army commanders. The focus will be on strengthening counter-terror operations and preventing further attacks in the region. And leaders cutting across party lines conveyed their unanimous support to the government at an all-party meeting on Thursday over any action it takes in the wake of terror attack in Pahalgam. Held at the Parliament House complex, the meeting was chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, while Union Home Minister Amit Shah briefed opposition leaders on the prevailing security situation. A 2-minute silence was observed to honour the innocent lives lost in the attack. The opposition parties and the government in one voice condemned the terror attack in Pahalgam. And the Indian High Commission in London held a tribute ceremony at India House to honour the victims of the recent terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir. The event saw participation from Indian diaspora members, UK officials and dignitaries. High Commissioner Vikram Duraiswamy led the tribute, condemning the attack and reaffirming India's resolve against terrorism. A candle-lighting ceremony and moment of silence marked the emotional gathering, reflecting global solidarity with the victims and support for their grieving families. Well, a powerful message of solidarity and outrage echoed outside the Indian High Commission in London as members of the Indian diaspora gathered to honour the victims of the recent terrorist attack in Pahalgam. The gathering was a show of unity, mourning the lives lost and vowing unwavering support to the victims and their families. And in a strong rebuke to the New York Times, the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee has slammed the paper's coverage of the recent terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir. The attack was carried out by the Resistance Front, alias Pakistan-based terror group Lashkar-e-Taiba. Controversy erupted after the NYT headlined the incident as a mass shooting without referring to it as a terrorist act. The committee called out the language, saying this was a terrorist attack, plain and simple. Also, the U.S. State Department chose to take a neutral stance on the issue of Kashmir. When asked whether U.S. President Donald Trump intends to mediate between India and Pakistan on the Kashmir issue as he intended during his first term, the U.S. State Department made its position clear with a neutral response.
I'm not going to be remarking, sir. I will say nothing more on that situation. The President and the Secretary have said things, as have the Deputy Secretary.
In the aftermath of the brutal Pahalgam terror attack, several world leaders have extended their condolences to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, strongly condemning the heinous act of terrorism. French President Emmanuel Macron said France and its allies will continue the fight against terrorism wherever necessary. He shared details regarding his conversation with Prime Minister Modi on X. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu conveyed to Prime Minister Modi his strong condemnation of the terror attack in India. He reaffirmed Israel's solidarity with India in the fight against terrorism. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni also spoke to Prime Minister Modi and expressed their support in India's fight against terrorism. She conveyed her thoughts and prayers for the same. King Abdullah II of Jordan, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and President of Egypt Abdel Fattah al-Sisi also reached out to Prime Minister Modi, strongly condemning the terror attack. King Abdullah described the attack as a ghastly terror attack and expressed his deepest condolences at the loss of lives in the terror attack. Protest and candlelight marches were held across multiple cities on Thursday as citizens, students and political groups condemned the recent terror attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, which left 26 people dead. Students of the Government Degree College for Women in Anantnag marched through the town, condemning the attack. In Chandigarh, people gathered to protest against the incident, holding placards and calling for justice. In Ayodhya, Uttar Pradesh, a candlelight march was organized to honor the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack. Also in Delhi, members of the Khan Market Trade Association held a similar march with candles lit in memory of the deceased. In Bhubaneswar, the BJP Yuva Morcha conducted a protest march condemning the attack. In Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, BJP leaders and workers held a candle march. BJP MP and State Party President Vidya Sharma also participated. The attack, which targeted tourists in the Bison Meadow of Pahalgam, claimed the lives of 25 Indian nationals and one Nepalese citizen, leaving several others injured. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. US envoy to meet Iranians for the third round of nuclear talks. Israel's army chief threatens to expand the offensive in Gaza if hostages are not released.
You already dance to Bollywood music at weddings. Now imagine the whole world dancing to our stories too. World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit Waves is where we make Indian entertainment truly international. तो जल्दी तैयार हो जाइए दुनिया को अपनी धुन पर नचाने के लिए. बस 7 दिन और.
We explore various ways in which the delicate balance between urban development and environmental responsibility can be found.
We should have a target today that a minimal certain percentage of land must protected as for agricultural and horticultural purposes.
Our urban agriculture programs are designed to tackle food security and meet the nutritional needs of the poorest.
In future, caves will become more attractive as they have a direct impact on the fight against climate change.
The government is going to implement a scrapping policy designed to take old polluting vehicles off the road to reduce India's carbon footprint. So we are converting existing petrol motorcycles and scooters into electric ones.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lupakshi Khurana, and moving on, India's President Draupadi Murmu departed from New Delhi on Friday for a 2-day visit to Vatican City. She will represent India at the state funeral of His Holiness Pope Francis, who passed away on April 21st at the age of 88. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had expressed condolences at the demise of Pope Francis and noted that his affection for the people of India will always be cherished. On April 25th, President Murmu will lay a wreath at St. Peter's Basilica. On April 26th, she will attend the funeral mass alongside global dignitaries. India declared 3 days of state mourning. In a press release, MEA stated His Holiness Pope Francis will be remembered as a beacon of compassion, humility and spiritual courage by millions across the world. And US President Donald Trump said he is not happy after Russia launched attacks on Kyiv in 9 months, telling President Vladimir Putin to stop as he attempts to push Ukraine to agree on a ceasefire proposal. The Ukrainian capital came under one of the heaviest attacks this year, with Russia launching drones and missiles overnight, killing at least 12 people in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. Trump's direct appeal to Putin came after Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky urged the country's allies to put more pressure on Russia to put an end to the war. Trump told reporters at the White House that his administration was applying a lot of pressure on Russia and reiterated his displeasure with the attack. The president added later that Washington was also pressuring Kyiv.
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now. The Prime Minister understands that better than anybody. He wouldn't be talking right now. He's talking, and we're putting a lot of pressure. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes two to tango, and you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal too, and they're being hit very hard, and I do believe they want to make a deal.
Well, after talks with Trump in Washington, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said on Thursday that Kyiv was working hard for a deal.
So I worked with him for 4 years between 2010 and 2014. I stopped trying to read his mind. We'll see, but there is something on the table now, I think, where the Ukrainians are really playing ball. We all agree in NATO that Russia is the long-term threat to NATO territory, to the whole of the Euro-Atlantic territory.
And the United States is poised to offer Saudi Arabia an arms package worth well over $100 billion. The proposal was being lined up for announcement during U.S. President Donald Trump's visit to the kingdom. The offered package comes after the administration of former President Joe Biden unsuccessfully tried to finalize a defense pact with Riyadh as part of a broad deal that envisioned Saudi Arabia normalizing ties with Israel. The Biden proposal offered access to more advanced U.S. weaponry in return for halting Chinese arms purchases and restricting Beijing's investment in the country. Reuters could not establish if the Trump administration's proposal includes similar requirements. Well, a U.S. judge on Thursday blocked parts of President Donald Trump's executive order seeking to impose new rules on federal elections. U.S. District Judge Colleen Collier-Cotterly in Washington ruled that the Trump administration cannot enforce parts of the order requiring federal election officials to assess whether people who are registering to vote are citizens. She declined, however, to block parts of the order that sought to force states not to count mail-in ballots received after Election Day. The ruling came in response to lawsuits by groups including the Democratic National Committee, the League of United Latin American Citizens, and the League of Women Voters Education Fund. And Israel's army chief visiting troops in Gaza on Thursday threatened to expand the offensive in Gaza if hostages seized during Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel were not released. Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir said, and I quote, "If we do not see progress in the return of the hostages in the near future, we will expand our activities to a larger and more significant operation," unquote. The warning came as the army issued fresh evacuation orders for northern areas of Gaza ahead of a planned attack. Israel resumed its military assault in the Gaza Strip on March 18th after the collapse of a 2-month ceasefire that had brought a temporary halt to fighting in the blockaded Palestinian territory. And people from around the world gathered at the former Auschwitz concentration camp for the annual March of the Living Holocaust memorial event, walking a 3-kilometer path to honor millions of Holocaust victims on Thursday. Auschwitz, where 1.2 to 1.5 million people, mostly Jews, were murdered by the Nazis, also saw the deaths of other persecuted groups. Meanwhile, in Israel, sirens marked Holocaust Remembrance Day, halting traffic and daily life as citizens observed 2 minutes of silence. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu joined a wreath-laying ceremony at Yad Vashem to honor the 6 million Jews killed during the Holocaust. And the United States on Thursday said that President Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff will meet Iranian officials for the third straight week as the adversaries seek a nuclear deal. Witkoff, a businessman friend of Trump who has become his globe-trotting negotiator, last met Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Saturday in Rome, where they reported progress and called for talks among technical teams. The State Department announced that Witkoff would himself attend the technical talks to take place on Saturday in Oman, where he held his first meeting with Araghchi on April 12th. And on to some sports news now. Spanish tennis player Carlos Alcaraz withdrew from the Madrid Open on Thursday after the second seed said he was struggling with hamstring and groin injuries. The injury could be a blow to the preparations for his French Open title defense next month. Alcaraz sustained the injury during the final of the Barcelona Open, where he was denied a third title by Denmark's Holger Rune, who stunned the Monte Carlo Masters champion in straight sets. Alcaraz had received a bye into the second round, and the 21-year-old was scheduled to play his first match on Friday. And in cricket, Royal Challengers Bengaluru finally ended their home ground jinx for their season's IPL as they defeated Rajasthan Royals by 11 runs at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium on Thursday. This was the first match that RCB won in Bengaluru this season, having lost the previous 3 games at the venue. Batting first, Virat Kohli and Devdutt Padikkal scored 50s as RCB posted 105 for 5. Kohli scored 70 runs off 42 balls, while Devdutt Padikkal hit 50 off 27 balls. The duo stitched a solid 95-run stand for the second wicket. For Rajasthan, Sandeep Sharma was the pick of the bowlers with figures of 2 for 45. In the chase, Rajasthan were in command at several points, but Josh Hazelwood's 4 for 33 and Krunal Pandya's 2 for 31 eventually sealed the game for Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Well, former marathon world record holder Eliud Kipchoge on Thursday said he's raring to go ahead of this week's London Marathon. The 2016 and 2020 Olympic marathon champion, who holds an unofficial world record as the only person to have run a marathon distance inside 2 years, returns to London for the first time since 2020. He was the men's marathon world record holder from 2018 to 2023 until compatriot Kelvin Kiptum surpassed him at the 2023 Chicago Marathon. Kipchoge will face Sebastian Saw, who won on his marathon debut in Valencia, reigning Berlin Marathon champion Melkasa Mengesha, and Abdi Nagiye, who won the latest edition of the New York City Marathon. And in a significant move aimed at streamlining the documentation process for athletes, India's Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia on Thursday launched the issuance of sports certificates via DigiLocker in New Delhi. With the DigiLocker digital service, athletes can now access essential documents on the go. This initiative extends to sports, enabling athletes to store and retrieve documents conveniently. The system's goal is to eliminate hurdles such as unverified certificates, which sometimes prevent athletes from accessing job opportunities or financial benefits. Sports certificates issued via DigiLocker will soon be integrated with the National Sports Repository system, enabling automatic dispersal of government cash rewards directly into athletes' bank account through direct benefit transfer, eliminating the need for paper applications. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Dipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.